I'm doing Godzilla, and I'm. It's been really just a lot of fun. But yeah, I was hoping I got some time to come down to LA for these two shows I have coming out. I get to talk about them a little bit. So that was nice that they let me do that.
So congratulations on being an overachiever.
I mean, I feel like yeah, I mean, I think it's just all so much luck. I feel so lucky that I've been able to uh, work as much as I have in the past few years, and to get to do so many different kinds of roles, and getting to, work so many different muscles, and some muscles that I didn't even think I had. Um, that's a really, like, I just feel like it's like such a gift to be able to tap into these, you know, darker darker roles and heavier roles, and doing in like getting to do an Australian accent is like such a I feel like it's such a rarity for, I guess being an American,
Mhm.
and getting asked to do that kind of accent is kind of like, yeah, mind blowing, and again just makes me feel so lucky.
It certainly feels like you're not afraid to take on a challenge between Apple Cider Vinegar and Last of Us. What makes you say yes to a part? What attracts you to these roles?
I think it probably is the challenge. I think I really do like to push certain boundaries with myself and see how far I can go with something, because I do feel like my job, as I've done it more and more, feels like I learn so much as a person, and learn so much about myself through this job. And it does at times feel really like therapeutic, but it's really cool. It's a very gratifying thing, like finishing something that, like, I worked really, really, really hard on, and then it's done, and it's in the can, and then, whatever happens after that, I leave it, up to the world to decide. And but what really means the world to me is, yeah, being able to, yeah, take on such different roles is really what means the most to me as a person, and also as an actor. It's like really just very cool.
When your characters aren't necessarily the heroine of a story or aren't necessarily likable, she says politely, how do you find your way into them? I mean, I know it's not important for you to necessarily make them likable, but you want to portray them in an honest way, I'm sure.
This is the thing I've thought a lot about recently, because you're right, I have not played the or I guess, yeah, when you first meet someone like Abby, yes, she is does something true, very horrible. And then you sort of have to, like, learn through the course of, watching the show, that she might not be so different from the rest of the people in that world. But for someone like Belle, she yeah, she really does something so terrible and so horrible. And when I first read Apple Cider Vinegar, I didn't really, I couldn't, I was so mind blown, and so just, I just couldn't believe someone would go through that much to to do that kind of thing, and the amount of lives that she affected by lying about having brain cancer is just, it's so horrific and terrible. And so I knew that, and I have such a personal um relationship with cancer, and I just was furious. And so, yeah, I was wondering that myself, how I was going to take that fury and take just sort of just being so mind blown, and turn that into what I ended up doing. And I think you just have to, I ended up finding the parts of, like, the core of why she did what she did. And I think that what I found, and I guess with our writer creator Sam Strauss, is that she was someone that just was desperately craving love and community, and would do anything to get it. And getting to see, discover a little bit more about her background and where she comes from, and how she didn't really receive um, a lot of love, or the love that she wanted growing up. And I think that was helpful for me to sort of keep in the back of my mind while playing her. And also, having getting the opportunity to not be so tied down to trying to copy an exact, like, because she is a real person.
Right.
But what was great is that Sam Strauss with this story really wanted to create our own version of Belle Gibson, because she really, even online, she does have a presence online, and she had a huge social media following, but we really won't ever know, I think, who the real Belle Gibson is anyway. So I was really sort of just, I felt like I had to give everything I had to this character, and to go a little bit wild with it. And because she is a bit wild with who she is around certain people, and she's seductive, like seductive in one scene, and then like crying her eyes out in another scene, and then screaming, and then like singing like Firework by Katy Perry a cappella in front of a group of people, with a microphone. Like it's so chaotic that and I'm reading it on page. I'm like, oh my God, how.
Faking a seizure.
Yeah. Oh, faking is that's just a small casual one. But yeah, it really, it's so all over the place that I had to just like, I was actually just talking to Walton Goggins about this very thing, like just how the way he approaches his roles was kind of like similar to the way I approach roles. Is just like, I really don't see it any other way. I just like have to, whether it's embarrassing myself or like feeling really sad, I don't see any other option but to like give it my 100% energy.
And you certainly did that. Talk about creating that Australian accent. I've heard nothing but raise for how authentic it was.
Oh my gosh. Um, yeah, creating that accent was certainly just, yeah, so daunting, because it's such a hard accent to do. And I've never done it before. I genuinely thought like that when they sent me the script, which Seesaw sent me the script, the producers, I thought like they sent it to the wrong person. I thought they had the wrong email address. I swear, because they're because I have never proven myself in that way, or done an accent. I've only really done Southern accents. That's as far as I've gone in accent work. So I was like, wait, they must have the wrong person. Like I'm not Australian, and I have never even done that accent. And they didn't even ask me to do it. They just really put their trust in me. And so I think knowing that too was like an added pressure on top of the pressure I was already putting on myself, because it's one thing to like do an Australian accent around like your fellow American friends, but it's another thing to know going into it that you will be the only non-Australian on this full Australian job, and you have a ton of dialogue, and go have fun with that. It's like,
Good luck.
it's almost, it was torture to think about what that was going to feel like, because I thought, oh my God, I'm just going to be so nervous about every little mess up, or every little tiny detail of this accent. But I truly, so the process, you asked about the process was 3 months before we started shooting. I started meeting with the dialect coach. Her name was Jenny Kent. I truly would not have been able to do this accent at all without her. So incredible and so sweet, and really like held my hand through the whole job, and had headphones in on every take, and was listening to I wanted to be so specific about it, because I know, again, knowing how difficult it was, knowing that it hasn't been done a lot by an American actor, this accent in particular. So I wanted to just really make sure that I didn't do anything wrong, or and I just started, we our sessions were really kind of just getting the basics down, like no is like such a hard, that was like a really hard, like, oh, all O's were really hard for me to get down. And it was funny, my throat and my mouth started to get used to the sound, and I kind of almost memorized the accent like I would like a song or something. And I think because I have a little bit of a music ear, I was able to hear every little thing I did wrong, which was, I think, a blessing and a curse. But I, yeah, I started off with the basics, and then I would also like yell a lot of it. Like my dialect coach had me like shout a lot of the accents just to like really like get it embedded into your body. She said it would help for that. So I did that. I didn't have a lot of material on Belle Gibson.
What about those videos that she had done? Did you watch?
Yeah, I watched those for sure. That was like, I think I used that iconic 60-minute interview with the pink turtleneck and the intense
and that lip gloss.
And that lip gloss is I was like, I think we need to go more. Yeah, when I was doing the interview, I was like, I think we just need a little bit more. I want the light to reflect off of my lips.
Blinding.
Exactly. And I used that as sort of the core, and then pulled from that, because I mean, if you watch that interview, you can really see there's so much going on behind her eyes. I mean, it's fascinating to watch that interview.
How much did that help you craft her? Because I think you're right. Like, you see there's so much going on. You see her trying to craft the lies and create her own truth.
Yeah, I mean, I think I used it for really everything. I think it was then that I decided, like, oh, she is quite, because there was an interview of her like at some Apple event for like the Apple iWatch.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was one other video that I had that isn't on the internet. But the producers had a hold of the interview that she did with her publisher, where they are fact checking her. And that one is also like, it's like an hour and a half long of just
that must have been
pure
intense.
Gold. What'd you say?
That's it. That must have been intense.
Oh my God, so intense. So I had these 3 things on her, and it was watching those that I discovered just how much of a chameleon she is, and how she will literally do whatever it takes. And I think that helped me with like creating her past too, just how much in her like childhood she sort of molded herself to sort of fit certain types of like groups of people in her childhood, and like being at the skate park and dressing a certain way. And then as she got older, she started to dress differently. And then like through, I guess kind of like halfway through her 5-year scam, she started getting a lot more money. And so she started dressing differently. She dyed her hair. She used some of the money, I think, that she was earning to like fix her teeth. So she got better teeth. So I actually had 2 different sets of teeth in the show. She really is an actor. I think she's kind of an actor to me. Like when I saw these videos, I was like, man, she really is she's very different in all of these. And it's only slightly different, but like there is a difference here. And I used that to sort of build the entire show. I mean, man, it was so fun. It was, yeah, a lot of fun.
I know you mentioned too that you've got a personal connection to cancer and you were dealing with your mother. How did it, as fun as it was to create this character, how did you also protect yourself emotionally at the same time?
Well, there were only like a few moments that were triggering. Like when I had to film like the part where I'm getting a brain scan. That was, just one example of shooting. Like when shooting the show, I got a little bit just triggered by that. But I think in general, when I first read this story, I thought it was like it felt so, the timing was just too crazy when it came into my life. My mom had just started sort of exploring, in addition to, her chemotherapy and radiation that she was doing, she was also doing like um, integrative type of care just to help boost her immune system and looking into non-conventional therapies, um, like the character Mila does in the show, and also I guess with Belle as well, but she didn't have cancer. So, but there is
There's that.
yeah, there's that, right? The things that they were talking about in this script, first of all, I didn't know about this story at all. I didn't know about Belle Gibson when I first read it. So, but the things that they were discussing, I was like, Jesus, this is so close to home. Like all of the, coffee enemas and all of the IV therapy that they're talking about, like that was my life for so long. And it was my life when I left to go shoot the show in Australia. And she was, her health started to decline a little bit more when I left. But like my mom got to read the scripts actually, and she was obsessed with the story and the scripts. And she was so like, it was a really, she was so excited for me, and in a way that like she knew how much of like a rare opportunity it was, because there was a moment when I thought, like, I was afraid to go, I mean, not to get too deep into like the emotional part of this, but like I was afraid to go to Australia and leave my family. God forbid something happened at that time. Like I was really scared to do it, but like what kept me going was actually my mom. And so, yes, there were moments that were triggering on set, but I think that, you know, my mom got me through that job too. Like I got to talk to her every single day on the job and FaceTiming and showing her my new like bleached blonde hair, and like, so I hold those memories very close, and I was able to protect myself in that way. Like my mom was there for me for all of those moments, which I guess ultimately was the thing that helped me.
What do you want people to take away from the show? What do you think the message of it is, if there is one?
I mean, I think there's what's so great about the show is that there really is so much. There are so many themes in the show, and there's so much to take away. I honestly, I don't really know. I think it's maybe just like you can't always trust everything that you read online. You don't really have all of the detail. You don't really have all of the details until you really, until you really know a person. And I think that that's a really important thing in this day and age with social media and everything that you read online. It can be so overwhelming. It's just, I guess, to just be patient with yourself, and also just, I guess, be your own advocate for your own body, because there's a lot of opinions and a lot of people who will tell you what's best for you. I've definitely learned this, and my mom having cancer for 15 years, like you really, at the end of the day, like no one's going to look out for you except for you. So you have to, yeah, be your own advocate, I guess, would be one of the many messages.
Terrible segue, but hard pivot to Abby. Speaking of advocating for yourself, she is really her. I just don't want to run out of time, and I do.
No. Yeah.
You definitely delivered one of the best lines ever. Where did you summon that emotional energy to come in with the line and just, like it's like a bomb drop and I'm out?
For The Last of Us, particularly, I think that job, I felt like I was totally floating through set. And for some reason, I guess all of those emotions and that anger and that pain, I had a lot of that. And so it was just a matter of like amping it up to Abby mode. I think that was ultimately what I did for that character, and really getting to like this deep like rage, and just full on rage. And I think I had to there was, we saw some of it. We saw quite a bit of it in episode 2.
This is true. Yes.
But the last, that last scene, you don't have much time to tell that story, or to give too much context on who Abby is. So I just had to let every moment, every word that I said really matter and make the most of it. Because I think for season 2, I was definitely coming in and out. I would go up to Vancouver and shoot like a scene, like basically, I would shoot just one scene, and then I'd go back to LA and wait a couple of months, and then I'd go back and do it again. And so I was really I only did 3 episodes total, and I really wanted to make sure that I did whatever I could to use what I had. And what was there was so, like, Craig Mazin is such a brilliant writer that I had so much to work with. And I knew, it's just about like going through the backstory too, and what Abby has had to see and what she's had to deal with leading up to that very point. And some of that we haven't seen yet.
Yeah, how much did they tell you? How much did you know from the game, and how much have you like laid the groundwork for what we're obviously going to now learn that we're going to see in season 3?
Yeah, it was funny. Someone asked me in an interview a couple weeks ago. They're like, "So what's the deal for season 3? Do you know anything?" And I'm like, I really don't know anything. And then that news came out that just a couple days ago that it's an Abby season, and I was definitely told that a long time ago. So I knew about that. I lied. I'm sorry, but
you're forgiven.
I knew about the game because I played the game with my dad. The first game I played a couple of times with my dad, and then the second game I only played to a certain point, because then at the point that I had stopped at was actually, it was right around the time I had my first meeting with Craig and Neil Druckmann. And Neil was actually very clear on not finishing the game. Like, he knew I had started it and started playing as Abby. I got to the point of, like, post Joel's death. He's like, actually, I would just like not play it, and I don't want to be too tied to the game at all for this. I really want you to come at this with this, fresh pair of eyes. But in that meeting, they told me a lot about their plans. And and yeah, we're gonna get to dive even deeper into Abby in season 3, and I'm really looking forward to doing that. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff that has happened that we don't really know about. But yeah, there's some, obviously it's all there a lot of it's in the game, and I'm excited to get to explore more of that.
Fans obviously have lots of feelings about Abby. How much do you engage with that? Do you pay attention to it?
I feel like, a lot of people have asked me this, like how it would, like, especially like before the show came out, and they were asking me if I was gonna check, and like, obviously I was gonna check. I feel like I have a phone and I'm a human being, and I'm going to look, and I can't help it. And it hasn't been, it's been okay, like I'm also able, like, any negativity, I'm also just able to just like continue to do my work. And even when I started the role, it was announced that I was playing the character, and it's there is a lot of hatred for the character Abby in the game. There just is. But I think that I had to just put that in like its own box, and just give 100% of myself to doing my job and doing the character, and just hope that like people are able to separate real person from character. And I think, we'll get an opportunity to, and I think the way that they structured the show, they gave a little more context to Abby in season 2, and because in the game they don't actually do that. I don't know if you know, but like in the game, Abby literally shows up and kills Joel, and that is, and you're like, and then all of a sudden you're playing as Abby, And then you're like, who's this lady? What is going on right now? And you have no idea who she is. And I think it was nice and also helpful to be given that context and to see her pain before that happened. So I'm glad that they were able to structure it like that in the game a little, or in the show a little bit more.
What motivates Abby? Is it revenge? There's more to it than that, isn't there?
I think it's revenge, but I think when you experience that kind of grief, I think that that's what drives her. I think that she is so angry about that loss, and I think that is ultimately what drives her. And it's just she's just riddled with grief and pain. And um yeah, I think that she's just a very broken person at the end of the day.
Do you think she feels any guilt or remorse over killing Joel, or it's just that's what she needed to do?
For me, and playing the character, I think like I had to um a, a, approach the role in thinking that, you know, she's someone who lost someone she loves, and I think and spends 5 years planning on how she was going to get revenge. And I think that plan and all of those 5 years is sort of like it sort of brainwashes you in a lot of ways. Like there's no other way to think about it. It's like this is the plan, this is what I have to do to feel better. Because you when you're grieving, like that is that you, all you want is for that pain to go away. And what you really want is just that person back, but that's not going to happen. And so like, but I think that she is so consumed by this by this goal, really. Um, that I think that there's a hint of it, I think, that I wanted to play a little bit in the second episode is like it finally happened. She finally does it. And there's just like a hint of like, oh, I don't feel any like I like maybe she feels even worse now. Like I don't really know. And I'm excited to dig deeper into that in season 2, but just like how or season 3, sorry, but like how yeah, does it I don't know if that really at the end of the day made her feel any better. But there's like a hint of it, obviously, because there's no like dialogue and at that point. But like I think that's at least what I was like feeling. It's like, okay, there's been so much lead up to this moment, and then it finally happens, and it's like, oh, I still don't have my dad, and now I feel worse.
It's interesting seeing these two fierce women as the center of the show that feels very, would otherwise feel pretty masculine and testosterone, but here you've got these two women who are pretty strong, pretty fierce, pretty strong, and fighting for what they
Yeah.
believe in.
Oh yeah. It's really wonderful and very powerful, I think, for sure. To be a part of this is like really such a I feel so lucky. Really is like a real dream.
What do you want to see for her next season?
Oh man. I have no idea. I mean, I'm excited to have I actually haven't had any conversations about like what actually is going to happen. Craig just all he tells me is he's like, oh boy, Kaitlyn, it is. He just wants to level up. He was like, what I want to do season 2 is I want him to level up from season 1. And then it's now it's just going to be bigger. Is what he's told me. So I'm excited for whatever that means. um, I'm so excited. I loved all of just like the physical work, like being in the snow and um I had to like we were shooting like so I make so much stunt work, the most stunt work I've ever done for a job. But like we would have base camp in this like in the mountains, and then we would travel up the mountain for like another like setup, and then for where we actually shot, there was only 10 people that were allowed on this like on the side of this like tall peak, and we had to wear avalanche trackers on our body
Oh my God.
to be up there. No, it was like but it was so cool. I'm like, when am I ever going to be in this deserted like mountain range ever again in my life, like shooting the coolest TV show ever? Um it was pretty crazy, but and so cold. But yeah, I love like really, you know, I again back to like challenging stuff. I just really like I like challenging work. It's definitely yeah, therapeutic.
Did that prepare you for the Godzilla movie?
Yeah, I think it did. Although like I'm still in the yeah, I'm still in the middle of it. There's still a lot to come, but yeah, I feel prepped. I think I'm prepped for sure.